Since the foster family didn't allow pets, they built a simple elevator by the window. By pulling a rope, the dog could go out and play by himself during the day, and come back at night. With this little invention, they managed to hide the dog for 3 whole years. But one day, the siblings discovered he was gone. After some asking around, they learned that Friday had been picked up as a stray, and taken to the shelter. The shelter had a cold, ruthless rule. Any dog not adopted within 3 days would be euthanized. Andy couldn't bear to think what would have happened if they'd found Friday any later. For his safety, Andy felt they should find Friday a real home. But just then, Friday suddenly slipped through a broken door. The siblings followed close behind, and discovered an abandoned hotel. Inside lived a small Boston Terrier, and a large Mastiff. The 2 dogs eyed the intruders warily, but Friday's friendly demeanor eased their guard. Soon the 3 of them became fast friends, even curling up together to sleep. Seeing such a heartwarming scene, the younger brother suggested letting Friday stay the night there. Before leaving, Andy pulled the curtain shut for them, and that marked the beginning of the dog hotel. Early the next morning, the 2 were about to grab some food for the 3 dogs' breakfast, when their foster mother caught them red-handed.
That's quite a load there. What are you, feeding the whole neighborhood?
The foster mother pulled some leftover mush from the fridge and locked the cupboard. Life under someone else's roof was never easy, but all they could do was grit their teeth and endure. Just then, anxious, low growls came from afar. The noise caught the neighbors' attention, and also drew the shelter workers. They hurried upstairs, and found that it was the Mastiff. Because the curtains were drawn and he couldn't see outside, he was pacing restlessly by the window. The curtains weren't just blocking the morning sun, they were blocking his entire connection to the outside world. The dog's pitiful whimpers tugged at the siblings' hearts. They quickly offered the breakfast they'd saved, only to find that even the dog wouldn't eat it. The younger brother suggested getting some dog food for Lenny and Georgia, but Andy was shocked when she heard him give the dogs names, because a name was never just a casual label. Once you named them, you'd form a bond, and they couldn't even protect Friday. How could they take care of other dogs? Besides, the hotel belonged to someone else. Going in and out was trespassing. If the foster family or the police found out, the 2 of them would be forcibly separated. But no sooner had she said that, than Friday came back with his favorite cushion, acting as if he'd already made the place his home. Watching this, Andy fell silent. Maybe letting Friday stay there wasn't such a bad idea. At least he wouldn't have to worry about being taken to the shelter. She told her brother to stay and watch over things, and she went to the pet supply store. But the prices made her worry. The chain she had couldn't even buy the cheapest bag of dog food. Just as Andy was at a loss, a friendly store clerk walked over, and told her with a smile that for 1 dog, a small bag would do, to avoid giving herself away. Andy lied and said she actually had 3 dogs, that her parents loved dogs, and that they had a big yard at home. Hearing that, Jack's eyes lit up. Thinking Andy was a dog lover, he took her straight to the back warehouse. There were 3 dogs there that had been abandoned by their owners. Jack said they all had their own lovable flaws. A bulldog that loved to destroy things, chewing everything in the house to pieces. An energetic border collie that never listened to commands. And a reclusive Chinese crested dog that always hid in corners, and wouldn't let anyone near. Jack asked if she could temporarily take them in. He would take care of the dog food. Andy gladly accepted. Nervously, she brought Jack to the hotel. She thought he might be put off, but to her surprise, Jack thought the place was really cool, and decided to join them on the spot. Just then, another store clerk followed the trail and found them. She loved dogs too, and was great at taking care of them.
You guys need me.
And just like that, their group of 2 became a team of 4. During the day, the siblings took the dogs out for walks. After work, Jack and the others would come to help clean the hotel. But walking 6 dogs was no easy task, and they had to risk being caught. After one close call, they no longer dared take the dogs outside, but with nowhere to burn off energy, the dogs just ran wild inside the hotel. After all that chaos, everyone collapsed on the floor in exhaustion, but the kids weren't stumped. They hauled some old treadmills out of the hotel, tied Bones to the front, and the dogs, eager to get the treats, kept running on the treadmills. The walking problem was solved that easily. Next, the younger brother rigged up a timed feeder, portioning the food and setting the timer, so it would automatically dispense at mealtime. It was convenient and hassle-free. After a few days of observation, they noticed the dogs all liked to pee by the pillar, so they designed a multifunctional post for them. After the dogs did their business, stepping on the tray in front would trigger a spray of water to clean up, clean and hygienic. And to deal with the poop problem, they came up with a brilliantly creative solution, a fully automatic toilet. The whole idea was to make sure that when no one was around, the dogs could take care of themselves. As the hotel got on track, they welcomed a 5th member. The younger brother also brought back a 7th dog. He told the others that while looking for materials at a scrapyard, he found a poor Doberman scavenging for food there, so he brought it back.
Oh yeah, why don't we just wander the streets and rescue every stray we see?
It was meant as a joke, but it unexpectedly sparked everyone's enthusiasm. A full-scale rescue operation was officially launched. The younger brother modified a radio, specifically to monitor the shelter's broadcast frequency, while the others waited at the scene, ready to move. They saved a Havanese that was eating by the roadside, and rescued a pair of siblings that were stuck in an iron railing, and refused to be separated. Sometimes Friday would act as bait to buy time for the others, helping rescue dogs that had already been caught. Before long, the once empty hotel slowly filled with furry figures. The registration book was packed with the names of various dogs and their check-in dates. Before this, they had been strays fleeing through the streets, but now they all had a home. Soon after, David from the welfare office came excitedly to find them. He'd finally found the perfect family willing to take both siblings in. From now on, they wouldn't have to put up with their stingy foster parents or live at anyone's mercy. They would finally have a stable home. The siblings' eyes lit up. They were ready to go pack their things right away. But when they heard that the new home was far away, the light in their eyes slowly dimmed. Without much hesitation, they turned down this rare opportunity. David felt it was a pity, but he still respected their choice. Watching David, who genuinely cared for them, walk away, the siblings felt a mix of emotions. Of course they wanted a real home, but they also knew they had responsibilities here that they couldn't abandon. That night, though, the food dispenser suddenly short-circuited and stopped working. The starving dogs waited a long time without getting any food, until they finally couldn't hold back and swarmed into the kitchen. The sharp crack of broken dishes rang out one after another, and ingredients were trampled all over the floor. In just a few moments, the tidy kitchen was turned into a complete mess. Worse still, all the dogs had joined in the bone-grabbing game. The commotion quickly drew Andy and her brother, but also completely exposed their hiding place. The siblings frantically herded the dogs into a small back room, but the cramped and dark space made Lenny, who couldn't see outside, increasingly agitated. He couldn't help but start barking loudly. In the end, all the dogs were taken away. Even Friday didn't escape. The younger brother's cries were heartbreaking, but his small body was no match for the adult script. After the dust settled, the foster family no longer wanted to keep the siblings. The two of them were about to be sent to different places. The overwhelming grief of parting flooded over them like a tide. The home they'd worked so hard to piece together had finally fallen apart. David was also filled with mixed emotions. He went alone to the abandoned dog hotel. The empty room held only scattered dog hair and that registration book. The dense handwriting recorded every dog's name, the date they arrived, and the reason they'd been rescued. Only now did David fully understand. This wasn't just an abandoned hotel. It was a home that the siblings had fought tooth and nail to protect. But the dogs had all been caught, and the 72-hour countdown was ticking. The rule had been meant to ease the shelter's overcrowding, but now it had become a death sentence for countless strays. Just as despair was spreading, Friday suddenly broke free from his leash. Clever as ever, he pretended to still be restrained, and the moment the people stepped out, he bolted with all his might, sprinting toward home. But when he rode the elevator up to the windowsill, the room was empty. Even the familiar scents had nearly faded away. Friday's ears drooped. His heart, once full of joy, was now shattered with disappointment. But the pet supply store became his only hope in this desperate situation. Just as Andy was drowning in sorrow at her new home, she suddenly heard a familiar bark. It was Friday, and Jack had come too. Together, they found her brother. The joy of reunion softened the bitterness of separation. But the most important thing now was to save the dogs. Jack said there was a shelter outside the city that didn't euthanize, and if they could get the dogs there, they'd be safe. Soon, the team members gathered at the shelter entrance. They split up according to plan. One person ran to the front and shouted fire to lure the staff out, while the siblings snuck in through the back. Jack was in charge of driving, ready to provide backup at any moment. If something unexpected happened, Mark would step in. Of course, the dogs weren't idle either. Before long, dozens of dogs, led by Friday, poured out of the shelter in a frenzy. Their little legs ran as fast as they could, chasing after Jack's car in a wild dash. The dust cloud behind them was filled with the joy of freedom. The spectacle of the dogs' escape went viral in no time. But Friday suddenly remembered that his favorite cushion was still at the dog hotel. Without a moment's hesitation, he turned and ran straight toward the hotel, with all the other dogs chasing after him, completely ignoring his siblings' anxious calls from behind. But just as the dogs stormed through the hotel entrance, the piercing wail of sirens closed in. Police, media, and shelter workers had surrounded the place. The siblings' eyes welled up with desperation, but all their struggles were in vain. Just when all hope seemed lost, David stepped forward with the registration book in hand.
I'm responsible for these kids, and I know what they did was wrong. But I gotta tell you, I wish I had the guts to do what they did. They created their own little family.
Then David opened the registration book and read out each dog's name, one by one, along with their check-in dates and the reasons they had been rescued. And the dogs whose names were called, as if answering a roll call, ran up onto the steps one after another.
No one was turned away when they needed a home. Nobody was abandoned when they were looking for a family. Are you really gonna tell me that we're gonna just abandon them now?
The word silenced the crowd. The accusations of illegal sheltering, the judgments of irresponsibility, all of them dissolved in the face of those clumsy yet heartfelt records. People finally understood that this wasn't a prank. It was two children, shortchanged by fate, doing everything they could to give homeless dogs a place to belong. And David had also been changed.
I have found some real parents that might be willing to adopt. See, the mom is excellent. She's a teacher, so she's really great with kids.
And he cannot cook to save his life. And he shouts during football games like the players can actually hear him. But he has a great heart.
Do they like dogs?
We love dogs.
The siblings finally had a home that wouldn't fall apart, a home where they'd never have to worry about being sent away again, never have to drift from place to place. At the end of the story, that secret-filled abandoned hotel reopened with donations from the whole city. It had been completely transformed into a genuine pet-friendly hotel. The dogs that had once wandered the streets all found jobs there. Every little dog had found their purpose and their place. The hotel had a full adoption center and was equipped with all kinds of pet entertainment facilities, from a safe haven secretly built by 2 children to a paradise guarded by an entire city. The kindness of young hearts had grown into the warmest possible ending.